Hello everyone, this is Johnny and welcome back. In today's video, I want to talk a little bit about the propagation boxes that I created, and I've highlighted these in past videos, but I just wanted to say that you don't need a greenhouse to propagate Japanese maples, whether that be for grafting, and we'll talk a little bit about that, or whether that be growing Japanese maples from cuttings, which we'll also talk about, and when it comes to other plants, propagating other plants by cuttings. Yes, a greenhouse does make your life easier, and I have been restoring an old greenhouse, and I've been sharing that journey with you, so you probably are aware of that. And I did do some work on that greenhouse today, and I'll have an update video come out in the next few weeks with my progress there. But if you don't have space for a greenhouse, and you don't have access to greenhouse space, you can still propagate plants, and you can still practice. And this bin method works really well. So I'm just going to quickly take you through some of these boxes and show you what I do every day, how I take care of these, and then talk a little bit about these boxes and what I'm propagating. First of all, as you can see here, I have these boxes lined up under this bench. This is to keep them from getting direct sunlight, but they still do get quite a bit of light because this bench is pretty tall, and as you can see, there's some space here. So it still allows quite a bit of indirect light, so that's ideal. Now I'm going to pull out one of these and just talk about the box a little bit and what I do daily with the box. Okay, so this is a simple plastic storage box, and I like this particular one because it has these little latches on the side which do securely hold that. It also allows me to, if I want to mist this and keep it under the bench, I can leave one of these latched and just slide this up and mist in this. So that's handy. But for this case, I'm just going to remove the lid. Now, the lid is important. I didn't want to leave this as a completely unventilated environment because that leads to problems. If you leave this completely cut off from any airflow, you can get fungus buildup in this, so I didn't want that. And if you want to be safe, you can use a fungicide, and in this box I have various Acer palmatum Japanese maple cuttings. But I just use a sprayer and I mist these 2 to 3 times a day. I actually don't have to add any extra water to this because just the misting keeps this medium pretty wet at a good level. And when it comes to the soil medium that I've been using, this is a mix of 50% perlite, 50% peat moss roughly. I didn't measure it, but just roughly a 50% mix of those two. So I can see here that I propagated these on June 30th. Currently, it's the 3rd week of August. So we're starting to come up on 2 months of these being in here. Now with Japanese maples, and I've mentioned this in the past, I've noticed that there are some varieties that seem to root pretty well as cuttings, and there are some varieties that do not. I have taken out some here that have not made it, and for instance, like this one here, that's obviously not going to make it, so I'll pull that out. I see one here that's not going to make it. This one, it's obviously turned black and it's not going to work. Japanese maples don't always have a high success rate when it comes to rooting them, but some varieties have a higher success rate. But nonetheless, you can see that very likely these are rooting because they still look very good here. But generally speaking, for Japanese maples, it takes 3+ months for me to get enough roots to pot these up, and that works pretty well here. Now when it comes to the bottom of this box has a bunch of holes drilled at the bottom because you want to make sure that you have good drainage for this. And when it comes to accessibility, these are quite affordable, and you can find these at local stores quite easily. You just basically drill holes in the bottom, drill holes in the top, fill it with your rooting medium soil of choice, mist it 2 to 3 times each day, and depending on which variety you're trying to root, usually somewhere 2, 3, 4 months in, you have a good root system that you can transplant this out. Okay, here's another box that I have some Japanese maples in, and on this side I have some orangiolas, and these are looking pretty good. You can see that there is some new growth on these cuttings, and I did have good success with orangiola in the past, so those are looking pretty solid. Looks like this is Sango Keiku. or Sengokaku. I'm not sure how you say that there, but I believe that's that there. That one, although the leaves are still kind of hanging on, that one's not going to make it. It's starting to get some white there, so I'm going to pull that one out. It looks like I'm going to have success once again with the Orangiolas. Sengokaku, maybe. It looks like some of those are hanging on. Looks like I propagated these on June 14th. So it's been a little bit over 2 months for these. So I'm probably going to wait till about the 3-month mark before I dig these up and figure out which ones rooted and which ones did not. I did want to go to the other side and just talk about one quick experiment that I'm doing with rose cuttings. Okay, in these 2 boxes here, I have Cecile Brunner rose cuttings. This box has 50% perlite, 50% peat moss, and this is what I've done in the past, and I have had some decent success rooting the Cecile Brunner roses with this method. But I wanted to try an experiment here with sand and perlite. So on this side, I have a mix of roughly 50% perlite, 50% sand. And I put a good amount in here, pretty much packed these pretty well with both. And I will share the full results later on, but it looks like so far the perlite peat moss is doing better than the sand side. You can see a lot more leaves have fallen here. Of course, leaves are falling here and there is some yellowing, but what I'm really looking for is when the stem turns black like that, that's not going to make it. But the ones that don't have black on them, that's a good sign. So I can see that there's one there. I'll pull that out. I can see there's one there. We can pull that out, turn black. That one, there is still some green there at the bottom. That could send out a new shoot, so I'll stick that back down in. But there's not a lot of that have black stems, but this was done on August 6th. So we're still pretty early on. But when you come over to this side, you can see that there's actually, it seems like there are quite a few more with the black stems. So it looks like I'm going to have a lot better success sticking with the perlite peat moss mix. But stay tuned, I will have the full results of this. I look forward to having a greenhouse and experimenting with propagating in a greenhouse. And I should have the greenhouse done sometime in the next little bit. I'm making good progress on that, and I will share an update in the next few weeks on that. Okay, lastly, I'm going to talk about grafting shortly here, grafting within a greenhouse. So I have here an Acer palmatum butterfly that I have grafted onto the seed-grown rootstock. And I grafted this one on June 9th, and you can see that that's looking great. So I believe that one has taken very well. I'm using buddy tape here, and I just did a basic side veneer graft. But after you graft this new scion onto your rootstock here, when you do that, you need to keep this in a humid environment. And so what I've been doing is I just take a 1-gallon Ziploc bag, and I cut off the 2 top corners so there is some breathability to that. And I slide that over this and just basically partially close the bottom part, and then I'm able to mist this through the side holes. That's what I did here for the first parts of this. And of course now for several weeks now, these have been just on their own, being watered and growing out. When it comes to this fall, I should be able to remove the buddy tape if that hasn't started to degrade enough. And then here I have an Acer palmatum, I believe this is Mikazuki, yeah, Mikazuki, that I've grafted on here. And there is some new growth here you can see here, but that one looks like it made it as well. You can see the graft union there. It looks like it's doing just fine. This one I grafted on the 13th, June 13th. So using a plastic bag and misting this by hand, that eliminates the need for a greenhouse. Does a greenhouse make it easier? Yes. Is a greenhouse probably necessary if you're doing high volumes? Yes. But is a greenhouse necessary for you to propagate? No, you can make use with what you have. Well, I hope that was helpful for you, and I hope that encourages you to try your own propagation and to build your own propagation box. I will link in the video description to basically a quick tutorial of how to build that box if you'd like all the details there. I did that in a video where I talked about lavender propagation, and so I'll link to that down below. Also, if you're not yet subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing. And as I mentioned earlier, I am restoring a greenhouse, and I'm taking you through that process. And I did some work there today, and I should have some updates for you in the somewhat near future, so look out for that. Well, until next time, thanks for watching.